Destruction. Yeah, that's right, guys. Today we're gonna be taking 5 LEGO vehicles and we're gonna perform some brutal crash tests with them.
3, 2, 1.
This looks fucking boring! But since just filming them doesn't quite do the trick, I guess we'll have to use the magic of LEGO stop motion to make some satisfying crash animations. And before we're going to try some of the big vehicles, let us start at the bottom of the transportation food chain, with the most terrifying automobile known to mankind. The shopping cart! So let me welcome you into our brand new LEGO crash testing facility, where we're going to conduct our first super scientific test runs. And of course, what would be a crash test without a testing dummy? Let me introduce you to the finest crash test dummy money can buy. Dummy! But in order to crash test a freaking shopping cart, we need to find a way to accelerate the cart up to high speed. Yeah, I'm afraid you're not quite fast enough on your own, you fool! The thing is that real-life crash testing tracks are up to 200 meters long. But this little test track is cool and all, but maybe a bit too short to convincingly accelerate vehicles up to 300 miles per hour. So in order to get all of our vehicles to top speed, let us install a lovely boost panel that's gonna accelerate our specimen in no time. And with all of this prepared, it is finally time for our cart to crash into the block of doom. And to make the shots of the cart driving before it crashes, I've got these 3 set pieces that I placed alongside this ruler. Now I can move the set pieces along. And with this LEGO plate arm keeping dumb E in center at all times, I can effortlessly animate some super neat driving shots. So let's get straight to the part you've been waiting for, animating the crash. Okay, the deal is that real-life vehicles and shopping carts are made of metal, which bends and deforms upon impact. Plastic LEGO though doesn't quite do that, which means that for our animation, we're gonna go for a more stylized route and animate the LEGO to behave like actual LEGO, making it explode into little pieces upon impact. And this is the point where things completely get out of hand. Normally, there's only like 1 or 2 main characters or objects moving in a scene, right? But with the cart splitting into many small pieces, each of which having to be animated with their own arcs and directions, posing all of the objects for a single frame might as well take 20 minutes. For 1 frame, there is 15 frames in 1 second. And even though the impact is shorter than a second, I still sat through many hours of ruthless debris animating, never thinking of giving up. That is a lie, I was questioning my life choices constantly, but with all of my patience, I finished our first crash test animation. Except that this was just the beginning, because only after animating did yet another villain show their face. And this villain was masking. Yeah, as it turns out, masking out all of the wires holding some pieces in the air frame by frame is also complete and utter insanity. But after many minutes that felt like hours, I didn't surrender and masked out all of the rigs of this first animation. Meaning that it's time to present to you the shopping cart crash test. And after the successful first crashing attempt, we arrive at the next chapter of our journey, with our next contestant being the car. Well then let's crash test this thing, shall we? So the way that modern cars keep you safe is by deliberately designing the front of the car to bend and deform upon impact, called the crumple zone. That way the car absorbs the shock and gets all destroyed and messed up, instead of you sitting inside. And airbags and seatbelts are also really helpful. So you know what, let's cut down me some slack by incorporating all of these fun safety features. But in order to make this crash test work, we gotta modify our car model a bit. Because this car's front has this super large piece built into it, which is kinda the absolute complete opposite of a crumple zone. So upon the car's impact, I had to step back and replace the larger parts with lots of smaller pieces. That way we can make the impact look like there's actually some destruction going on. And after a second gruesome round against the mask, in which I only barely came out on top, may I present to you the car crash test. And he's completely fine. How frickin' boring! Look at this sassy motherfucker. You know what? If you think you're so cool, then let's see how you're gonna do when I take away your airbag and your seatbelt. Oh, and let's also replace the crumple zone on the car keeping you safe with ultra sturdy unbreakable titanium steel. Now that's much more like it. Oh, and by the way, Dummy can't feel any pain, so he's doing absolutely splendid. Anyway, moving on to our next chapter. Huh? Who's that? Oh my god, it's Dumb F. Dumb F is a lifelong friend of Dumb E. They even graduated together from Crash Test Dummy University. And I guess now that he's here, let's give Dummy a break and have Dumb F be the driver of our next vehicle. The truck. But let's change things up a bit and replace our block of doom with a new obstacle. The pole. The pole might seem small and innocent, but believe me that this one also leads to some nasty collisions. And just like with the car, I completely modified the truck from the ground up to be able to break apart into many smaller chunks. I also made the cabin of the truck easily detachable, because I have a feeling that heads will be rolling here. And while animating the crashes against the wall was fun, I found animating the pole crash to be even more exciting, with this one looking even more chaotic. And let's also do an epic instant rewind effect, where you see the action again from a different angle. You know, like in that Paper Mario game where he like tears apart the stapler and then you see it again 2 more times from different angles? You'll see what I mean. And after animating the second angle, I concluded the whole thing with a third and final shot of the cabin tumbling along the ground. And with the animating done, it is once again time for the third battle against the mask. Even though this one turned out to be the most horrific and tedious one yet, I live to see another day. So I can present to you the truck crash test. Seems like both truck and driver lost their heads during this one. Anyway, we've already totaled a good number of vehicles today. But let's crank it up another notch for the next one, shall we? So for our next specimen, I'm afraid our little test facility is getting a bit too small. So let's move out into the desert. But first, let's crash test the like and subscribe buttons. Say hello to the one and only train. Yeah, that's right, we're crash testing a freaking train. And we're not just gonna slam it against the wall like before. No, we're racing it down a cliff for it to crash into the ground. But now that our vehicle is running on train tracks, we run into a horrible catastrophe. Because we can't place boost panels on train tracks. Well, don't worry, I'm pretty sure placing down one of these mystery boxes shall suffice. So the main driving shots use the same old strats like all the animations before. But things get fancy as the train gets closer and closer to the edge of the cliff. Because for this sequence, we obviously need a dramatic train POV shot. So I did some tinkering around and straight up built a working camera dolly, which enables our camera to ride on the rails, allowing us to animate a neat train POV shot. Next up, it is time for the train to drive off the cliff. And those of you who have seen my Titanic video will probably recognize this little thread that keeps the train in the air, which is of course connected to the one and only worm screw winch, which allows us to lower anything attached to the two threads super easily, like in this next shot right here with the train falling down. Which means that we finally arrived at the impact on the ground. The issue is, to animate the train falling down on this larger set, we need a more sturdy way to keep the model held in the air. And I know what you're thinking, but no, the literally Lego rig is not quite up for the task. Introducing the microphone stand. Yes, this is in fact a microphone stand. However, we still need to find a way to make it compatible with Lego bricks, so we can safely secure the train. Luckily for us, the diameter of the arm is just slightly smaller than this of a round 2x2 hole. So by wrapping some tape around the arm, we can increase the diameter to neatly fit the Lego scale. I then built a larger and more stable tube adapter, with a hinge for the train to be placed on. And with the help of some sticky tack, the adapter neatly sits on the arm, allowing us to securely keep the train held in the air, making it super easy to gradually lower it for the crash animation. And now that we're done animating, there's once again one more thing we have to do. Okay, actually, because all the pieces are on the ground, we only have the mic arm to mask out this time. Yeah, take that, mask! And with the mask only having a single HP remaining, I present to you the train crash test. And since we've completed the train crash, this means that we have arrived at our final destination for today. The biggest and last vehicle we'll be crashing today is the aeroplane. So how do we make this plane fly? Well, let's find out. The way I decided to make this thing fly is by doing most of the heavy lifting in the post-production editing. So all I did on set was to take a picture of the plane as well as a variety of different cloud pictures. Then over in my editing program, I stitched together all of the elements and keyframed them to create the sky atmosphere. The secret ingredient are the clouds in the foreground. I then built the cozy interior of the plane, adding a few tiny details here and there, and this time both Dumb E and Dumb F will be joining us for this final descent. Speaking of descent, so now the time has come for this thing to crash down before scraping along the ground. Now we just gotta figure out how to keep this thing in the air, and I think you already know exactly how we're gonna accomplish this. Yeah, that's right, my new favorite mic stand also allowed the plane to be held in the air super effortlessly to animate it crashing onto the desert ground. Okay, but alright then, we've arrived at today's biggest obstacle. And by obstacle, I'm not only talking about this huge mountain that our plane is gonna crash into, I am also talking about the crash itself. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I am not exaggerating when I say that this is easily among the top 3 most time-consuming shots that I have ever animated in my life. Having to animate almost 30 different objects across 1 full second of animation is something that took me many hours over multiple days to complete. This singular shot probably took more time than some of the other crashes combined. I seriously could not imagine a more worthy final challenge for this video. But channeling all of my strength, patience and endurance, I finished animating this shot. But that's not the end. I actually also want the plane to explode afterwards. So in order to do that, I had to rip open the mountain again to make room to install this lamp here, and with my usual cut and place or light shenanigans, I animated a plane exploding. Yay! Alright, but let's do this one last time. Can you imagine how long it took to do all of the masking for this one? Objection! Not this time, because with the help of this rock terrain right here, there's a special trick that we can use to animate this one without masking. Because instead of using nasty wire, I simply used sticky tack to fixate the pieces on the edge of the mountain. But even though the path that this piece is traveling looks fine from the camera's point of view, if you view it from above, you'll see that nothing here makes any sense. Like, the piece can't just teleport from here to here. Except yes, it totally can. As it turns out, as long as everything looks right from the camera's point of view, it doesn't matter if what's going on in the real world technically doesn't make sense. Which means that there's only very few frames containing elements that I need to mask out, which was a breeze to get through. And thus, like true heroes, we finally defeated the Wrath of the Mask. Well then, you've waited for this moment long enough. Here's our final crash test, the aeroplane.
Goodbye, brother.
Oh no! So yeah, I guess the moral of the story is, wear your seatbelts. Thank you so much for watching. I'm so happy that you've made it till the end. And if you still crave some more LEGO shenanigans, be sure to check out this video, where I recreated the sinking of the Titanic. Well, that's all for today, folks. See you in the next video, and as always, trust the process. Bye.
Leave